Let me talk to you about something most men think about, but almost nobody discusses openly: paternity certainty. The confidence that the child you're raising is biologically yours. This isn't about being paranoid. It's not about hating women. It's about acknowledging a fundamental asymmetry in how parenthood begins. A mother knows with absolute certainty that the child is hers. She carried that baby for 9 months. A father operates on trust, and for most men, that trust is enough. But what happens when it isn't? I want to have an honest conversation about this, not one that vilifies anyone, not one that treats every relationship like a minefield, but one that acknowledges reality and helps you think through one of the most important decisions you'll ever face. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. If you raise a child who isn't biologically yours without knowing it, the consequences last a lifetime, emotionally, financially, legally. And by the time you find out, it may be too late to change anything. So let's talk about it. Really talk about it. Paternity fraud exists. That's not a controversial statement. It happens. Not to most men, not even to many men, but it happens enough that every man who faces fatherhood thinks about it at least once. Usually in the quiet moments, late at night when doubt creeps in, during an argument when trust feels shaky, or simply when calculating the magnitude of what you're about to commit to for the next 20 years of your life. The vast majority of men are raising their biological children. Most women are faithful. Most relationships are built on genuine trust and commitment. But we're not talking about most situations. We're talking about your situation, your life, your future. And when you're facing something that will define the next 20 years and potentially cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in financial responsibility, you deserve to know for certain. Think about it this way. If someone told you that most parachutes work perfectly fine, would you jump out of a plane without checking yours? Of course not. You'd verify, not because you expect it to fail, but because the stakes are too high not to know for certain. That's the position some men find themselves in, and they deserve to have that conversation without being shamed for it. Here's where it gets complicated. Asking for a paternity test carries implications. It suggests doubt, it suggests mistrust, and in a healthy relationship, nobody wants to communicate those things to their partner. For many women, the request feels like an accusation. It feels like you're saying, "I think you cheated on me." And if she didn't cheat, if she's been completely faithful, that accusation hurts deeply. It undermines the foundation of what you've built together. I understand that, and I think men need to understand that too. If you're in a committed relationship with someone you love and trust, bringing up paternity testing requires thought and sensitivity. It's not a casual conversation. But here's the other side. Your need for certainty is also valid. Wanting to know for sure that you're the biological father doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you don't love your partner. It means you're being honest about a very human need for security when facing one of life's biggest commitments. The difficulty is that these two legitimate perspectives often crash into each other, and neither side is wrong for feeling what they feel. Most relationships operate on trust. You trust your partner to be faithful. You trust them to be honest. You trust them with your heart, your home, your future. And that trust is usually well placed. But parenthood is different from other aspects of a relationship in one crucial way. It's permanent. You can recover from financial mistakes. You can rebuild after arguments. You can even heal from infidelity if both people want to work through it. But once you've signed a birth certificate and bonded with a child for years, walking away is devastating. And staying, when you discover the child isn't yours, is equally devastating. The legal system doesn't care about your feelings. In most jurisdictions, if you sign that birth certificate, you are legally responsible for that child, regardless of biology. Even if you later discover through DNA testing that the child isn't yours, courts often rule that you must continue paying child support because you've acted as the father. The law prioritizes the child's welfare over your right to withdraw support after discovering the truth. This creates a trap. A man who trusts completely and signs immediately has no recourse if that trust was misplaced. The window for action is small, and once it closes, you're locked in, regardless of the biological reality. So the question becomes, at what point does protecting your future outweigh the discomfort of the conversation?
I want to share some real situations, not to scare you, not to make you paranoid, but to illustrate why this matters to some men. There's a man I'll call Robert. He and his girlfriend had been together for 3 years when she got pregnant. He was thrilled. They got married, he signed the birth certificate, and he dove into fatherhood with everything he had. He changed diapers at 3 in the morning. He coached Little League. He saved for college. When his son was 7, Robert's wife filed for divorce. During the proceedings, she admitted the child wasn't his. She'd had a brief affair 3 years earlier and suspected all along, but never said anything. Robert was destroyed. Not just by the infidelity, but by the fact that the child he'd loved and raised for 7 years suddenly wasn't his. The courts ruled that he had to continue paying child support because he'd established paternity legally and acted as the father. He paid for another 11 years for a child who wasn't biologically his and whose mother had knowingly deceived him. Then there's Marcus. His situation was different. He and his partner weren't married, but they were committed. When she got pregnant, he had a feeling something was off. He couldn't explain it, just an instinct. He suggested a paternity test. She exploded. She cried, she accused him of not loving her, she threatened to leave. He backed down. He didn't want to lose her. 2 years later, she left anyway. During the custody proceedings, he insisted on a DNA test. The child wasn't his. But because he'd signed the birth certificate and acted as the father for 2 years, he was still on the hook for child support. That instinct he'd ignored cost him roughly $200,000 over 16 years. These stories aren't common, but they happen. And every single man in this situation says the same thing. I felt something was off, but I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to seem like I didn't trust her. Here's where we need to be careful and fair. How a woman reacts to a request for paternity testing doesn't automatically tell you whether she's been unfaithful. Human beings are complicated. Emotions are complicated, and this is an emotionally charged topic. Some women who've been completely faithful react with hurt and anger because the request feels like an accusation. That's a normal human response. Being asked to prove your fidelity when you've done nothing wrong is painful. Other women who've been faithful are more understanding. They recognize that men don't have the automatic certainty women have, and they're willing to provide that reassurance, even though it feels unnecessary to them. And yes, some women who've been unfaithful panic because they're afraid of being caught. Their reaction is driven by fear and guilt. The problem is that from the outside, these reactions can look similar. A woman crying and saying, "I can't believe you don't trust me," might be genuinely hurt, or she might be deflecting. A woman who gets quiet and withdrawn might be processing her emotions, or she might be calculating her next move. You can't diagnose faithfulness based purely on emotional response. That's not how human psychology works. But you can pay attention to patterns. Does she immediately make it about your character instead of addressing the actual request? Does she recruit family and friends to pressure you into dropping it? Does she delay and deflect with escalating excuses? Does she use emotional manipulation rather than having a straightforward conversation about why this hurts her? Those patterns might indicate something beyond hurt feelings. They might indicate someone who's avoiding the test itself rather than processing the emotions around it. A woman who's hurt but has nothing to hide will usually come around once she processes the initial emotions. She might say, "This really hurts me, but I understand why you need to know. Let's do it and move forward." A woman who continues to escalate, deflect, and avoid might be revealing something else. But again, this isn't a perfect science. People are messy. You have to use your judgment. If you've decided you need paternity certainty, how you ask matters enormously. First, timing. Don't spring this on your partner in a moment of anger or suspicion. Don't ask right after an argument. Don't use it as a weapon. That poisons the conversation from the start. If you're early in a relationship and not yet expecting a child, you can bring this up hypothetically. I read something interesting about paternity testing becoming more common. What do you think about that? Her response in a low-stakes conversation tells you a lot about how she views trust, certainty, and partnership. If you're already expecting a child, you need to be thoughtful about framing. This isn't an accusation, it's a request for certainty before you take on lifelong legal and financial responsibility. You might say something like, "I want to start this journey with complete confidence and no doubts. A paternity test would give me that certainty and let me be fully present as a father. I know it might seem unnecessary to you, but it would mean a lot to me." Notice what that does. It frames your need for certainty as something that will make you a better father, not as an accusation against her. It acknowledges that she might not understand the need while still asserting that the need is real and important.
If she responds with hurt, acknowledge it. "I understand this feels hurtful, and I'm sorry it came across as doubt about you. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm asking about this because the stakes are high, and I want to enter fatherhood with complete peace of mind." If she continues to escalate, deflect, or manipulate, rather than simply expressing hurt and working through it with you, pay attention. That tells you something. Here's what most men don't understand until it's too late. The birth certificate is a legal document that establishes financial responsibility. Once you sign it, you're on the hook, regardless of biology, in most cases. Different states have different laws, but the general principle is consistent. If you sign the birth certificate and act as the father, you're the legal father, period. Even if you later discover the child isn't yours, courts will often rule that you must continue support because the best interest of the child takes priority over your interest in not supporting a child who isn't biologically yours. Some states allow you to challenge paternity within a certain window, often ranging from 2 months to 2 years. But once that window closes, you're locked in. And even within that window, you face an uphill legal battle. The safest time to establish certainty is before you sign anything. Most states don't require you to sign the birth certificate immediately. You can wait. You can get a DNA test first. Yes, that creates tension. Yes, it makes the situation harder, but it protects you legally in a way that nothing else does. Here's what I want you to understand. The hospital staff will often pressure you to sign. They'll say it's routine. They'll say it needs to be done now. They'll make you feel like you're being difficult if you hesitate. Don't let that pressure you into signing something that creates lifelong obligation before you have certainty. You're not being cruel. You're not being paranoid. You're protecting yourself before entering into a legal contract that could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over 18 years. Let me be honest about something else. Even when the test confirms you're the father, asking for it changes the relationship. Your partner will remember that you doubted her. That memory doesn't disappear just because the test came back in your favor. Some relationships recover from that. The trust is rebuilt over time. Other relationships never quite get back to where they were. That doubt, even if it was reasonable, leaves a mark. You have to weigh that cost against the alternative. What's the cost of never knowing for sure? What's the cost of wondering for years? What's the cost of potentially discovering years down the line that your entire foundation was a lie? Only you can make that calculation. Only you know your relationship, your level of trust, and your tolerance for uncertainty.
But I will say this. If your relationship can't survive an honest conversation about your need for certainty, that tells you something important about the relationship. A partnership that's strong enough to last a lifetime should be strong enough to weather this conversation. Some people argue that paternity testing should be automatic at birth, just part of the standard procedures, like the heel prick test for genetic disorders. That way, nobody has to ask, nobody has to accuse. It's just information that everyone gets automatically. I see the logic there. It removes the stigma. It provides certainty without requiring doubt. It protects both men who would never otherwise ask and children who deserve to know their biological heritage. But it also catches women who might have made a mistake, might have been in complicated situations, might have their own reasons for the uncertainty. And it exposes those situations whether the people involved are ready for that information or not. I don't know if universal testing is the right answer. It's a policy question that involves trade-offs. But the fact that we're even discussing it shows how real this issue is for some men. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Your need for paternity certainty is legitimate. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you hate women. It doesn't mean you're paranoid. It means you're taking seriously one of the most important decisions and commitments you'll ever make. At the same time, understand that asking for a paternity test has consequences. It communicates something to your partner, whether you intended to or not. And if you're wrong about your doubts, you may damage something that was real and good. You have to weigh those factors honestly. How much do you trust your partner? How strong is your relationship? What are the specific circumstances that make you uncertain? Are you responding to real red flags or to general fear? If you've decided you need certainty, ask for it clearly and respectfully. Frame it as your need for peace of mind, not as an accusation. And pay attention to how the conversation unfolds. If your partner responds with hurt, but ultimately understanding, work through it together. Acknowledge her pain. Reassure her of your love. Let her know that this isn't about doubting her character, but about getting certainty before you both move forward. If your partner responds with escalating manipulation, deflection, and avoidance, trust your instincts. Someone with nothing to hide doesn't need to avoid the test. They might be hurt by the request, but they don't need to prevent you from getting the answer. And most importantly, don't sign legal documents establishing paternity until you have the certainty you need. The pressure to sign will be intense. The social expectations will be strong. But your legal and financial future is too important to compromise out of fear of looking bad.
You get one chance to make this decision correctly. Make it while you still have options. Make it while you can still protect yourself.
Because once that window closes, it closes permanently. Your life, your choice, your responsibility. Make it count. If this video helped you think through one of the most important decisions you'll ever face, hit that like button. Share this with men who need to hear it. Subscribe if you want more honest conversations about the things nobody else wants to talk about. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Have you been in this situation? What did you decide? Your experience might help another man navigate this better than you did. I'll see you in the next one.